contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. When I first went into prison, I caught my case in 1998, as those that follow me, that watched Welcome to the USP already knows. I had co-defendants that got caught up in the case. Well, most of them, outside of two of us, outside of me and my homeboy Puma, the rest of them went to the state. And my homeboy Puma went to FCI. They sent him to Arizona or Phoenix. I, on the other hand, got sent to a USP. They gave me the label of the leadership role. They gave me gang enhancements. And also, I caught another case while I was in the county, assault on a guard. So that kind of pushed my security level up another notch. So I got sent to the USP. And when I get to USP Lompoc, everybody, like I've told you, gets divided into different groups. First it breaks down your race, whether you're white, black, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Islander, Asian. Everybody gets break up into their group. Outside of that is gang members. If you running Crip, you running Blood, you running GD, you running Latin King, whatever gang you running, whether it's the neo-Nazis, skinheads, white supremacist gang, that's your car, that's your gang. For me, I get lumped into the Asian Islander car. But being in the Asian Islander car, we're not a gang as a group. There's no structure. Yeah, there's always somebody that's, for the most part, dubbed as the spokesman. Because, when a confrontation arises, you don't need a bunch of freaking dudes powwowing trying to make a decision. You need a couple of dudes with cool heads or whatever to make the decisions and to mediate between all the different problems and issues that arises while you're in the penitentiary. But as far as the Asian Islander car, we're not a gang. We're supposed to have each other's back. We're supposed to ride together when it comes to different groups. But when I first went in, there was really no unity like that. Yeah, we all are in one car, but the history, the Samoans don't like the Hawaiians don't like the Samoans. There's a few Tongans there. And as far as the Asian, we've been at war out here with each other for as long as I can remember. It's not that way now at present time. Like, things have gotten better, and I'm grateful for it, for the generation behind me. But growing up, you always had Cambodians warring with the Vietnamese. Out here, it was the Cambodians and the Laos warring with the Vietnamese. Out in California, it was the Cambodian and Vietnamese warring with the Laos. And it breaks down, differently in every state, just because of the relationships that the people in those respective states have amongst each other. I'm not really familiar with like the Chinese, the Koreans, and the Filipino, because there's not a lot of them out where I live. Where I grew up has always been Laos and Vietnamese and Cambodian. But being in a gang mentality, when you go into the penitentiary like that, you can't just abolish those old cultural, bias and racism. A lot of people think that only white people can be racist. Well, I'm here to tell you, the Asian community is one of the racist communities that there can be. We grow up hearing stories about, Vietnamese. I'm Cambodian, so I grew up hearing about the Vietnamese. We call them, in our language, Yuan, which translates to barbarians. But growing up, I'm thinking the word Yuan just means Vietnamese, you know. But at the same time, the Vietnamese or the Laos, they all have derogatory terms for Cambodians too. Which, you're coming back, when you come from a country that's always at war in Asia, all those little countries, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, they've been at odds with each other for centuries, and they're still at odds now. And then when you grow up, your parents feed you that because of their experience between these different other races. So me growing up, I carried that with me. And when I went into the penitentiary, it was the same thing. But on the yard that I'm at, all the yards that I've been, there's been very few Cambodians. And I say this to emphasize that even though I'm in an Asian Islander car, I'm literally by myself, And the homies that end up having my back that I built, that became my friends, and even my brothers, was through the relationship that I built with them. These relationships that I built, cross over to different races, different groups, different gangs. But at the end of the day, none of them were obligated to have my back. If a situation comes up, it's on them to decide if they want to aid and assist. Vice versa. I don't have any obligations to any of these people. None of them were from my gang. None of them were blood related to me. But through the course of my time, I built relationships with individuals that I'm willing to put my life on the line and aid and assist if something comes up. So when I left Beaumont, when Beaumont got shut down, I got sent to Atwater. And when I got sent to Atwater, my reputation already preceded me. They've been hearing about my name throughout the system, especially amongst our community, because from the time that I stepped into the penitentiary until the very last few years that I was in Florence, I was on the front line. And everybody knows that in the penitentiary, you got predators and you got prey. If you don't know which one you are, then you're the prey. Because a lion knows he's a lion. But when people first encounter you, they're not sure who you are, and they're always going to try you, especially if they feel like they're tougher than you, or bigger than you, or more dangerous than you. And I've got myself into a few different confrontations. But I don't want to say I got myself into it. I've dealt with a few different confrontations because of this aspect. Because one, I'm a kid from Utah at the time. I ain't got no homies on the compound. And when it comes to being Cambodian, when I first went to Lompoc, there was 2 other Cambodians there. But as soon as USP Atwater opened up in 2002, they all got shipped out to Atwater, and I stayed in Lompoc. And practically, I was the only Cambodian on the compound. So they've had other groups that has already been established, different gangs that's been established amongst the islanders. And I got into a confrontation with one of them in Victorville where I almost killed him. I put him in the ICU for 3 days. I collapsed his lungs. When I stabbed him, I hit his lungs. And while I was in the SHU, when they put me in the SHU after the incident, where we're at, we can see the doorway, and see who comes into the SHU. And for 3-4 days, I'm looking for this dude to come back from the hospital. Because, me and him used to be cool. And my intention wasn't to permanently, end him. But at the same time, me having to do the time that I had to do, I couldn't allow certain things to transpire because there's no secrets in the penitentiary. When somebody smells a victim, I guarantee you they're going to line up. All the predators are going to line up outside your door trying to get a piece of it. And the only way to eliminate that is the first time it arises, you deal with it, and you deal with it in a way where it leaves no misunderstanding what you're conveying. And the language that everybody understands, no matter what race you are, is violence. The penitentiary, at the end of the day, the most violent dude, the most craziest dude is the guy that gets, I don't want to say the most respect, but the most space. Whereas far as people aren't trying to push up on him, aren't trying to have any issues with them, so on and so forth. But I wasn't new to the violence in the penitentiary. I was out here running around doing what I was doing. That's how I ended up catching all my time. Anyway, but it's different in there because out here, you got pistols, you got guns, you got cars, and you got the whole city to move around in. You can come and do something to somebody and disappear and whatever. In a penitentiary, it's hand-to-hand combat. Literally, you, the other person, or the other group is right there in each other's face with blunt and sharp objects. You guys seen the movie Braveheart with Mel Gibson, where two groups of people are running towards each other with nothing but freaking fur and freaking blunt objects and are hacking each other to pieces. That's what it is in a penitentiary. Without putting any extras on it, that's what it is. You have no bulletproof vest. You have no armor. You can't shoot somebody from a distance. You're engaging in hand-to-hand combat, and it's life and death. So, I'm waiting for the dude to come back, and he doesn't come back. And when the CO walked by, I'm like, hey, man, what's up with my homie? And he asked me what the name was, and I told him. And he's like, oh, that's how you treat your homie? I'm like, man, fuck all that. Like, what's up? Like, oh, his lung collapsed. Like, what does that mean? He goes, oh, that means he could die. At that point in time, I wasn't sure really how to react to that news. Because here I am, I still got 20-something years left to do, which is, to me, it's a life sentence anyway. It's a life, it's a lifetime away. But at the same time, it's not life. So now for me to catch a body, even another 10 or 15 years for it, for lack of a better phrase, would knock my dick in the dirt. And I was just like, damn, but there's nothing I can do about it now. You know what I mean? At the moment, the act's already been done. But I'm frustrated because the dude made me do it to him. But through the grace of God, he survived, he lived, and I got sent to Beaumont. Now in Beaumont, I got in another little situation like that. And, I emphasize all the time, like, most of the year, there's going to be gang wars. There's going to be crashes between different races and different cars. But for the most part, all the drama, all the violence, all the chaos is eternal or internal. Internal. Meaning it comes from the people that you believe to be your people because of jealousy, of envy, or whatever politics they put in place that they don't feel like you're abiding by. You know, later on in time, I end up being the person that pushed the politics, that pushed the rules, because these are put in place to help ensure our safety. And if someone deviates that and causes and threatens harm to the community because he doesn't know how to act, it's my obligation to deal with the situation and make sure that I do what's best for the whole. And for the most part, I believe that I was able to fulfill that job. Because there's been shot callers or spokesmen or whatever you want to name them within different communities that made bad call and got their head knocked off. And that never happened to me. Everything that I've done through the course of my bid was always in the best interest of my community. And I hope that I have served my community well during the time that I was in position to help them out. But in Beaumont, we had an incident with another Cambodian homie. We had issues going back and forth about this Hawaiian dude, Kamanaka. I mentioned this in my episodes during the time that I was in Beaumont. He was dealing with the DCs. He was sending money off the books to the DC and having the DC move the money around. When I found out, I asked them, hey, if you send this money off to the DC and the DC dudes keep your money, that problem's going to come back on me, because I can't allow you to get extorted by another race, because that's going to make me look bad because you're riding in my car. But, he never really told me about the extent of the situation, and he kept doing it. But from my perspective, I knew he was getting extorted, right? So, but I can't come to his defense if he's doing that on his own accord, nor can I come to his defense if he's just the type of person that's going to get extorted anyway, after I've already set the stage for him to not, because all he had to do was say, hey, I'm not going to do that, come holler at me, and then me and the homies would go have the word with whoever needs to have the word with, and if we crash, we crash. But since he was allowing himself to basically get extorted, I said, fuck it, because you're going to put me in jeopardy if this shit goes south. If this shit goes south, I'm the one that's on the front line, because I'm not going to allow somebody to, push up on one of my people and get away with it. But since, this dude's okay with whatever the situation he got going on with the DC, I decided I might as well get a piece of it too. So I pushed up on him and got a piece of it. Now, during this time, I had a Cambodian homie that was over there with me, and he was real cool with the dude, Kamanaka. So he kind of told on me, like, hey, man, this is what Mace's intention is, blah, blah, blah. I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't stop it from happening. But, for me, it's like, you don't see what I'm doing over here. I try to make sure that this dude was good, but he, continues to be willingly to put himself in a position that's might backfire and cause us drama. So I don't have any love for him. I don't have no respect for him. But the Cambodian homie went out there and they tried to call a meeting on me, right? So we had this dude over there named Tran. He's from BTK, Vietnamese gang out of New York. BTK is Born to Kill. They wrote books about these dudes. These dudes were ex-military that came from Vietnam, and by all count, they're notorious and they're killers. So we had one of them on the compound named Tran, but he was a little itty bitty Vietnamese dude, right? When I first got there, he already left a bad taste in my mouth by telling me, because when I got sent to Beaumont, it was from the incident in Victorville, and he was like, "Oh yeah, if Grasshopper, Grasshopper is the dude that I hit, is co-defendant. Like, oh, if he say you can stay, you can stay. If he say you gotta go, you gotta go." In my mind, I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? And there ain't no way in hell I'm gonna allow somebody to push me off a yard. That was just my mentality. And as far as that was concerned, I spoke to Grasshopper, everything was cool, and I was on the compound. I mean, I was gonna be on the compound regardless, but it ended up working out the way it should have. But that really left a bad taste in my mouth dealing with this dude Tran. And fast forward, while I was in Beaumont, I had a couple inquiries about me. The Midwest was asking about me. Because I was walking one day and Tran comes over there and he's like, hey, there's been people asking about you. And I'm like, well, who? Oh, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. I know snitch. I don't here for that. I said, snitch? I said, what the fuck that got to do with you being a snitch? I'm your fucking homeboy. If there's other races, other groups, other gangs or whatever that's inquiring about me, you should let me know so I don't get side-blinded. He's like, oh, no, I don't got nothing to do with that. Just whatever. I'm just letting you know, the Midwest dudes are asking about you. But he didn't really pinpoint who the Midwest dude was. So when this incident arose where the Cambodian dude went and tried to he went and called a meeting on me because I'm over here extorting Kamanaka. So we're all like, oh, there's a group meeting. There's a group meeting on yard 1 where they have the basketball court and the handball court. So I said, all right, let's go. I don't know what the meeting is about, They called the meeting. So as I'm walking over to the meeting, I see Tran coming. And I look at Tran. I'm like, what you doing? Oh, the homies said they got a meeting. I said, yeah, the homies got a meeting. What are you doing here? Oh, what do you mean? I said, you weren't my fucking homie when you were talking about, dude was asking about me. You didn't let me know who the fuck was inquiring about me. So he looked at me with like a confused look. I said, if you ain't a homie, you can't be a homie when you want to be a homie. You ain't got no say in this meeting. So we go to the meeting and they're just beating around the bushes. They're not bringing up the issue about, what the meeting was called on for or whatever. And, after, nothing came of it, I try to push the issue like, man, what's this about? What's this about? I know what it's about, but they're not coming out saying it. They're just beating around the bushes. And I was like, man, I'm not trying to hear that shit. So after that, I ended up beating up the Cambodian dude because really we're Cambodians and he's supposed to have my back. But he tried to politic on me. So I ended up beating him up. And fast forward, after they closed down Beaumont, I get transferred to Atwater. Now we go back to the beginning of the story. Like I tell you, when I first went into the penitentiary, through my whole bid, I was never really around any of my homies that was out here from Utah or any of my homies that was from my hood. Even though I'm in an Asian Islander car, at the end of the day, the only person that's obligated to me is myself. Nobody else. There's no oath that was taken. There's no bond that was, there's no alliance that was sworn to have my back or any of that type of nature. Like if you were to sign up with one of the gangs in prison or if they were one of your gang members that you was out here on the street with an understood obligation in place, right? So when I got to Atwater, I kind of disrupt, I was kind of a disturbance because in Atwater, there's a lot of Asian Islanders over there. And the dude that I hit in Victorville, he's Guamanian. And there's a group of Guamanians that was in Atwater. And the dude that I beat up in Beaumont, he had a co-defendants over there in Atwater. So before I even hit the yard, people already know I'm coming. And they're like, man, who's this dude Mason? We've been hearing about him throughout the system. So when I finally hit the yard, I got pulled up on by Kenny. He's Guamanian. And, we sat down. He's like, hey, man, what happened with you over there in Victorville with one of my peoples? I ran down the story to him, this and that. And at the end of the day, Kenny was a man. And he's like, you know what, we're just going to leave that between you two over here. We ain't got no issue with you. We knew you were in the right. And at the end of the day, you have a right to defend yourself, and you have a right to do what you think is right. And if somebody has an issue with it, then that's what it is. You just keep funking until they don't have an issue with it no more. So as far as that issue went, we were good. And I got real good, close with Kenny and some of the other Guamanians on that compound. Some of them are my good friends till this day. Now with the other dude, with the other Cambodian dude, he had a couple co-defendants over there. And at this time, they're busting people out of Beaumont. They're busting people out to different penitentiaries and all that stuff. So wherever this dude was at, he knew that I landed in Victorville. So every week, there was a kite coming off the bus being delivered to his homie about me. So one of his co-defendants comes up to me and is like, hey, man, what happened with you in Beaumont, this and that? And I broke down the story to him. And he's like, all right. And he walks off. A few days go by. He gets another kite. He comes back. Like, hey, man, I keep getting this kite from the homie. Woo. He's saying this, he's saying that. Like, what's up? I'm like, dude, I explained the story to you already. Like, And he's like, all right. So another week goes by. And this dude comes back to me the third time because he got another kite. So he comes back and he said, hey, man, I got this kite. I keep getting this kite about this incident in Beaumont, so on and so forth. And I was like, look, man, I'm not going to keep explaining myself to you. Me and you have already talked about this, so I'm done with this. And I walked off and went to Chow. But while I'm in Chow, I'm not comfortable, because one, I'm really tired of explaining myself. And two, we need to resolve this issue before it becomes something, So I skip my meal. I come out of the chow hall. I go to one of my older homies. He's Cambodian from Modesto Hit Squad. His name's T-Bone. I say, hey, man, I'm finna go holler at this dude. Because I'm not going to keep continuing to explain myself about this situation. And the homie T-Bone was like, yeah, I already told him about that. You keep pushing, you keep poking him, something that you don't want is going to happen. So, because I've already explained to him 3 times now, or 2.5 times, because the third time, I was really kind of fed up with it. And this is the 3rd time. So, me, T-Bone, and one of my other homeboys, we went over to his block. They're Vietnamese. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of Vietnamese on that compound. And this is when I first got there. This is within like the first 2-3 weeks of me in Atwater. And, the people over there, they already feel some type of way about me anyway. But I'm doing my time. Things that I've done, I like to say that the things that I've done were necessary to ensure my survival. And at this point, I knew that if I don't, get to the bottom of this and figure it out today, it might become something. And I'm not trying to sit around and get hit upside the head. And I've been hit in the head with a hammer before, and it doesn't feel that great, right? So I went over to his unit. I told his homeboy go get him to come out of his block. So him and a few other Vietnamese come out. And I was explaining to him, I was like, look, I know this is your co-defendant. And I know you feel some type of way about it. So we can do one or two things. We can go up in the cell, deal with it, or we can end it right here and never speak about it again. It's your choice. You know, because if it's me, you know, if somebody came on the compound that beat up my co-defendant on another spot, or somebody that I know and fuck with, I'm most likely gonna do something. Because that's just the way I think. Because why are we homies if we ain't gonna have each other's back? Regardless if we're on the same compound or not. And I expect that the same from anybody else. So that's why I had to make sure I got it clear with dude, like, hey, you know what I mean? We can resolve this however you want to resolve it. We can end the conversation and never talk about it again. Or you feel like some type of way, we can go lock up in the cell. And he ended up deciding that it was between me and his co-defendant, that if, you know, me and his co-defendant run into each other again, we can deal with it. But as far as he's concerned, he's willing to let it go. And through the course of my time in Atwater, me and dude became cool. But, you know, my point is, you know, there's no secrets in the penitentiary. Wherever you go, people's always going to know where you are, who you are, what you've done, what you haven't done. And everybody's got friends. And when you bust a move on one compound, you can't feel like I'm cool because you're always going to stay on this compound. You're going to get shuffled around in the feds. It's not like the state prison where you go and you're stuck at one penitentiary. Like out here in Utah, we got Draper and Gunnison. You go there, you're stuck there. If you can't walk that line over and over anymore, they might throw you in a county jail or something. But for the most part, you're stuck in that environment for the whole bid. But in the feds, you get shipped around. And you might be in position of authority, in position of power on this compound, but when something happens and you get shipped to another spot, you know, the power structure might change. So it's always in your benefit to always conduct yourself in a certain way where it's beyond reproach, it's beyond question. So at the end of the day, you always got to do your best to make sure you're right and that you're doing things for the right reason. Because if not, you're going to be held accountable for it. But before I end this segment, I just want to let you guys know, coming up next week, I'm going to try a new direction as far as, I'm going to still keep it gangster. Matter of fact, I'm going to call it Gangster Rumination. I'm going to share you guys my thoughts and my perspective on some of the things that I've been seeing out here. You know, there's things that's going on that I see on the YouTube, that I see on the news that I really don't agree with and have a strong opinion of it. And I would like to share it with you guys. And I hope you guys follow me over there and see if you guys like what I have to say. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the USP.